Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. I'm Drew Davis, and we are blessed to have Jessica Mauthe with us. She started a ministry called Restoration Home, and you're going to love hearing her story of how she started chasing her God-given dream. So Jessica, welcome to the Every Arkansan podcast. So glad you could make the long walk down the hall to join me.
Yes.
So, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I've been born and raised here in Little Rock my whole life and married to a German guy. I think he was a guest here. Well, I know he was a guest here on the podcast. We live in North Little Rock now. We work here for the Dream Center. We love it. Been here, 4 years?
4 years this trip.
Yeah, this trip, exactly.
You were with us about when we started things.
Mm-hmm.
And then so you were part of a program at the church that kind of trained young leaders.
Yes.
And so you hung out with us for a little bit, and then you left. So
I did.
Where'd you go?
I moved to New York. Well, I was working here, or volunteering really, and working with inner city kids and realized I had no clue what I was doing. So I heard about a ministry in New York City and knew that they were doing a work similar to ours, just they've been doing it for 30 years. So I thought, well, I'll just go learn from them, and then I'll come back and maybe can offer some other things to the Dream Center. Just kind of figuring out, what the next step was and where God wanted me. And so I did that for 4 months, but then realized there was a lot more to what they do that was hard to gain in 4 months. And so when they offered me a job to come back, I moved all the way to New York City. That was one of the scariest days for my mom. She dropped me off, and she was like, I just dropped my baby off on Asher and left her there. I was like, okay, I guess Asher's bad. Yeah, so.
No worse than Brooklyn.
Exactly, yeah,
But
that's where I was.
She didn't know that at that moment.
No, she didn't, no.
So you spent those years in Brooklyn.
Mm-hmm.
You ran into a German guy.
I did.
And
What's the saying? Sorry, I'm pregnant. He's not hard to miss. He's 6'5", that's it.
6'5".
Yes.
And not quiet.
No.
His voice carries. So.
It does carry.
Which is great with kids. So.
Yes. Well, he's grown into that. When I first met him, he was very German. He was not outgoing. Everything was very black and white and logistical. He's still that way, but now he can actually millywop with the kids and, acts funny with them. So he's loosened up being down here in the South.
But you came back in just kind of an admin support role initially.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But you'd kind of had this burden on your heart.
Yeah. I would say 7 years ago, right when I was getting saved, the Lord told me, Jess, I want you to work with women. But there were just parts of my story that, there's some things we like to share. It's a little bit easier when we can blame people for maybe past mistakes or hurts in our lives, but when we have to take responsibility for what we actually did in kind of disobeying the Lord. So he really challenged me that if I would get to a place of getting healing from my whole story, that in that I could be utilized and used to restore other women. And so, we've kind of just said that. I started working with you guys, moved to New York City, come back here, and I'm thinking, oh, that dream that God gave me, man, he just put that on a shelf and it's dusty, and I guess maybe I heard him wrong, or maybe I just questioned, was that still something that God had within me? But it was still always a passion. I just didn't realize where the Lord was navigating me through, that he was actually setting me to be able to do it. And so, being here on staff, I think you asked me randomly, I don't know why you did, but I think it was a God thing, to go on a trip with you and your wife and Kristen to get trained with Mercy Multiplied. And it was there that God's like, the time is now. Let's do this thing. And so that dusty dream I put on a shelf and thought, okay, well, God's never going to bring it back to me. It started getting birth right here at the Dream Center. So, and the Restoration Home came from that. So.
And we're so thankful for the Restoration Home.
Me too. I'm glad you took a chance on me.
Twice.
Twice.
But I think one of the things that we always talk about is, because you've sugar-coated a lot of your story. A lot of the life hurts that you dealt with it took you years and years and years
Mm-hmm.
of working through. It was
Yeah.
that you weren't in a healthy place when you started the leadership
Oh,
program.
no
You
way.
weren't in a healthy place with us. You weren't in a healthy place even all the way through New York. You were
Mm-hmm.
getting healthy.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so just, I don't know if you want to share any of that. I know
Mm-hmm.
some of that is really personal
Yeah.
in nature, but
Definitely. I did. I grew up in a divorced family, and even though my mom worked super hard and my dad was a great guy, and I had a wonderful stepdad, it still breeds insecurity in a young girl, and going into high school and dating guys, and us girls, we've all been there. You just kind of pick up baggage along the way, and so making a lot of stupid decisions that thankfully, the Lord, was protecting me in the midst of all my sin. And so, yeah, once I got saved and went to that leadership school, I had no clue how unself disciplined I was, like, and how much it really helps you when living a life for the Lord. And because living a life for the Lord will cost you everything. And I think so many Christians and people, even me going into it blindly, accepting the Lord, had no clue what all I might have to give up, but it's been so rewarding. And so yes, every step of the way, from being with you guys, volunteering, and realizing, oh my gosh, I live a selfish life. There's kids that are going without so much, to moving to New York, and just gaining a whole new perspective of leadership and behind the scenes things. And yeah, I really believe that the Lord was preparing each step of the way, not only healing me, but giving me the tools, that when I came to you and said, hey, let's start the house, I definitely felt in over my head. Let's not, act like I was ready to go, but I knew that God gave me a tool belt to use, and He was going to help me keep learning through that process.
and I think it's really important to bring up one other thing that I know really kind of changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't you going through some program that changed your life.
Mm-hmm.
It was there was another woman in your life that
Mm-hmm.
came to you and said, I've made the same decisions and gone through the same
Mm-hmm.
things, and this is deeper
Mm-hmm.
than it is. And I mean, she poured into you for a
Oh,
period
yeah.
of year. I mean, even till today,
Yeah.
she's one of your best friends and still
Mm-hmm.
pouring into you. But what was it about that was different than a program, so to speak?
Yeah, I mean, the program taught me a lot of why it's important to make your bed, why it's important to take care of your body, and be healthy, and all those things. And that was great. And God really restored me during that season. But when, yeah, like you said, when that lady came to me and said, I know that you're healed, but I think that there's a little bit deeper roots and some things going on. To me, I was at a point like, God has restored me. I am healed. And a little bit of like righteous spirit of, I don't need to go any deeper. And that's a scary place when we get there as believers of, we don't have to go any deeper. We're going to be growing to the day that we die. Or I hope that I'm willing to be growing until the day that I die, with the Lord, and that He continues to sharpen me. And so when she came in, I think that was, I mean, it was a God ordained moment for real, and kind of walked into it and going, okay, I'll let you mentor me, sure. I have like all these amazing leaders and part of New Life, and okay, lady, really skeptical. And then, man, she started just going right to the root issues, and I'm like, oh man, I'm even more messed up than I thought. But just walking through that healing, I realized this is what it is to follow the Lord, that we are not, because we live in a fallen world, the enemy is coming after us. And so in that, he cares so much about us that he wants to restore us, and be more and more like him, that we don't have to wait to heaven. You know what I mean? He wants to do that work in us and make us more in his image. And so she started that process, and whew, I've been very thankful for her, and it changed my life on a lot more personal basis, and a lot more, it's just different when you can talk to someone exactly where they've been, and it relates to where you've been, and you can link arms with them, because they'll get you like no one else will. And so
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a super important thing, because having a daughter that's gone through life hurts.
mm-hmm.
You can forgive.
Mm-hmm.
You can try to forget, but there's still that seed in you of that hurt or whatever that God's working on. And I think so much of the time we allow that seed to turn to shame.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And so it's, oh, I did X, Y, or Z, or all three in some of our cases. And man, I'm better off to cover that up. I'm new in Jesus, but I'm going to put that behind me. That's my past. That's my history. It's forgiven, but it's still there.
Oh, yeah.
It still festers.
Oh, yeah. I think that's where the Lord started my journey with what would be my ministry with, you have to give me every area of your life. Because if you don't, I can't utilize you in every way that I have for you. And like you just said, we so often get a religious spirit, or we realize, oh, we raise our hands and we know the worship songs and we get comfortable. Church becomes our second home. And then it's like, oh, well, I'm good. Everything's taken care of. And we kind of lose that desperation of when we first got saved, of like, oh my gosh, who is this God? I got to get to know him. We read the word every day and we get in it and we're like telling everybody else what we've learned, and we're know-it-alls now, and we get comfortable there. And the Lord's like, no, remember that hurt with your dad? Remember that thing that happened with that ex-boyfriend? Like, those are still things that took away and steered you in a way that isn't everything that I have for you. And so it takes time. It takes you constantly wanting to dig deeper, and it can get annoying. You know, you're like, oh, is there something else I got to deal with? There's one more hurt. I didn't think that was a big deal, but I love what I get to do, and I love how the Lord is such a gentleman. He's never going to push you to walk through healing. He will hold your hand and guide you very gently into it if you let him. But if you want to just sit on a pew and be excited about praising the Lord and knowing who he is, that's great. But I think God doesn't want us to just know who he is, like, you know, I don't know. I can know who you are, but maybe I don't know you intimately. It's different, you know?
Yeah, and I think that's what people confuse of raising their hand. I accept you as my Lord and Savior, but it's kind of a one-way street. I'm taking what you're having to offer as far as fire insurance, but I'm not going to get vulnerable with you, God. You already know all these things, so I can kind of sugarcoat them or gloss over them and move on. But no, he wants to know every pinprick that hurts you. He wants to know every splinter you had.
And he wants to take it out. He doesn't want you to hurt anymore. Yeah.
And so, I mean, I think all of that's great, but I think one of the other things is so much of the time we get comfortable in, I'm a new creation in Christ. We forget or try to hide those things when that's what the person sitting next to us in the pew needs.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
They need you to be able to be vulnerable and say, I've been there, sister, or I've been there, brother, and I know how it feels. Because me, as a man, I can't relate to my 3 daughters, let alone anyone else in the general public. And I can only relate to certain things that I've struggled with. And I think it's important for us to realize that what Satan intended for harm, Jesus wants to make into something miraculous. And that's what's been so exciting with your walk, is having seen you from the early days, from the day you started that program till those 3 years working for us. Consequence time, all kinds of things. James Bennett put up with you, but I mean, walking through that and then seeing you leave us, and then seeing you come back, and it's like, holy cow, she's the admin queen now. She gets a lot of this stuff we're doing. It's great having you on the team. You're a thinker. You're all this, and then we go on that trip. Because I know that was something on your heart, and it was something on my heart just because what we'd gone through with my daughter, and I'd seen the transformation that Mercy Multiplied had brought in her life. But I think one of the great stories that you always tell is not what happened while we were on that trip, but what happened back here while we were on that trip, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, it was super exciting on that trip. I remember just being so emotional, and I knew Drew doesn't handle emotions well, so there's no need to have a talk on that trip. But I knew what the Lord was saying to me, and so I think I told you right when we were getting home was, on Monday we need to talk, but I need to get my thoughts together and get these tears under control before we have this sit-down meeting. But in that, Wells Fargo does a really cool thing with nonprofits where they sometimes will give foreclosed homes to nonprofits if they qualify, and a lot of this was going on behind the scenes while we were on that trip. And so we got to the office on Monday, which I thought, okay, my emotions are under control. I have my speech ready for Drew. I'm going to talk him into this. Let's start this house. What house? Who knows? But a staff member came up to me that morning and says, hey, I just want you to know Wells Fargo called, and I don't know why, but I feel like I'm supposed to tell you, we got the home free of charge. And I just like, oh my gosh, now that all the tears started flowing, I think you tried to take a picture of me because I think you knew what conversation I wanted to have, and it was just a confirmation moment because I told the Lord that weekend that if he wanted me to do this, because let me rewind 1 second. I was at church on that Sunday, and Pastor Rick did a sermon at New Life, and he said, some of you have dreams, and maybe they've been, you know, not coming to fruition, and so you're kind of frustrated. He's like, don't forget about them. Like, be reminded of them. And so I knew about this house that we could potentially get, so we get in the car, and I tell Marius, my husband, I said, we need to drive by it. And he was like, well, where is it? I'm like, I don't know. But I'll get the address. I'll text someone at work. And so we find it. It is boarded up. It is an abandoned home. And so I'm like, Marius, he's very German. So I'm like, we need to get out of the car and take that board off. And, my husband's like, that's breaking the law. Like, we can't do that. But I, smooth talked to him and said, just do it for me. And I remember he popped that wood off the wall. And I just looked into that home. And I saw a place that, a home is built for a family. A home is built for a place to bring safety. A home is built for you can laugh and feel vulnerable and cry and have the most joyous moments happen in that home. But yet this home was abandoned and boarded up, and people walk past it all the time, and it was just a shell. It was just a frame. And the Lord was like, yep, that's what a lot of women do. And you remember that season where you walked around just of a shell of a person. But I didn't create you for that. I created you to have purpose and a plan and visions and to know me and to be alive. And so the Lord spoke to me. He's like, we're going to use this home to restore women back to the very thing I intended for their lives. And it was going to take us restoring that home. And so when I walked into the office that Monday and that we got confirmation that we got the home, whew, yeah, tears were flying. I was just like, oh my gosh, Lord, you really do hear us. The time is now. Little did I know what I was getting myself into, but it was a good, exciting moment. Yep.
Yeah, and I mean, I think it's one of those things that we developed a plan. Mm-hmm. We got the house, and then you didn't understand me a lot of times when I kind of forced you to learn how to remodel the house.
Yes. There's days I prayed a lot for you because I'm like, just give him favor to want to do these things for me. Like, I'm tired of painting walls. I was frustrated, yes, a lot. But
I think it was one of those things, though, that it makes me nervous. I mean, I am a parent who has kids who has wanted to quit 6 million times of raising my kids. You know what I'm saying? They're my kids, yeah. But some days I don't want to raise them just because I feel inadequate, I feel ill-prepared, I feel whatever insecurities I have or whatever, and you persevered through that, and that was amazing. And I never will forget when we brought Rick over there for the first time, and you shared, here's what I want it to be, and Rick looked you in the eyes, he says, no. Yeah. He goes, this is this. And so...
Oh, the house was rough when I was speaking this vision over it. Ooh, yeah.
But I mean, I think what he told you was basically, this is for hurting women. Mm-hmm. This is for life hurts. Yeah. And it's not... So many people look at, I need to go into a residential type facility. Mm-hmm. Oh, I've got a drug addiction, or I've got... abuse I need to hide from, or some of these things that are so severe. Yeah. But what I love about what you've created is this is about people that are just hurting and broken. And just like what you said on that house, on the inside there's something that they're not on the outside, and getting to that. So tell us about the first 2 girls you brought in, because I think that's a great leadership moment for anyone else out there that's got a dream.
It was one of the hardest days of my life, and I think one of the days you saw me at my moment where I wanted to quit, maybe for the really for the first time I wanted to quit ministry. We finally got through the long process of renovating. We got through the process of putting all the volunteers in place and getting trained. You get all the manuals done, and you just feel like, I'm ready for war. Let's go get these girls. And we moved our first 2 girls in, and within a week and a half, we lost our first girl, just due to some different circumstances. And then by like week 3, here I was sitting in a room where this girl is yelling at me saying it's too hard, and I can't do this. And and me just being so frustrated with, like, you think this is hard for me. Like, I'm giving up nights with my husband. I work so hard, and I'm doing all these things, and I just felt, when she's like, I'm done, just let me leave. And something that Mercy taught me was, you can't make them want it more. They shared the story of the rich young ruler when Jesus is telling him the way to follow him, and he's like, I got some stuff to handle. And Jesus doesn't water it down. He doesn't say, well, let's just start here and then we'll work on those things. He just let him turn around and walk away. And that was my first moment in ministry, watching someone know that they have an opportunity, knowing that they have people around them that love them, and then watching her turn around and walk away to go back to this shell of a life, and where she was right there in the cups of, I'm not Jesus, but I really believe that Jesus, the Holy Spirit lives in our home, you know what I mean? And I think there's protection and all of that. And so to watch her walk away, yeah, that was a very disappointing day. I think it was a day that I needed to walk through, which I was very mad about it in the moment and called you crying, and I want to quit, and I was frustrated. But I think it broke in me the heart that Jesus has for us. How often times, even though I'm like living this life trying to live to serve him and honor him, I still miss it, and he still has grace for me, and he still waits for me patiently, and I just have to do my part. I just have to say, here's the way, the truth, and the life. Follow Jesus. Pick up your cross. Follow him. And what a person decides to do is not on me. It's not a burden I get to carry, but Jesus will be with them forever. And so I'm not sure where that young girl is right now, but I know that Jesus is still knocking at the door, and he will wait for her patiently. And that was something that I had to learn as a leader, that you can't carry these weights of the people and their hurts. Jesus has it, and he's full in control. Yeah. But I did want to quit. You told me to take the next morning off and said, see you later. And I was like, okay. So I got some rest, and I came back.
Yeah, and I think another one of the valuable things in doing ministry, it's hard and it sucks, and you went on this multiple year journey only to fail.
Oh, yeah.
There's no other way of saying this was. If worst case, it was a false start, but it was a failure, because I think parts of it we try to put the ownership of it on us.
Oh, definitely.
On what we can do, and it's been so exciting to see the reboot. Mm-hmm. You came at it with a fresh fire to say, no, God, this is you're the only one who's going to fix this. These girls are going to either want to be here or not want to be here, and so. What the home's kind of become is this refuge, and I'm going to let you kind of tell some of the stories, but we're able to provide it free of charge.
Yeah.
These girls just give up everything. We're taking care of their housing. Yeah. We're making sure they eat. In most cases, we're getting them a job.
Yeah.
Sometimes here at the Dream Center when we can pull it off, and they are becoming part of a bigger family.
Oh, yeah.
That doesn't even know what they're going through.
Yeah.
And it's been exciting. So just share some stories about what Restoration Home has become.
Yeah. I first want to say to the leader who's starting something that when you fail, that doesn't mean you failed. That just means you're back at the starting board. It should excite you. At first, it didn't excite me either. But the Lord showed me, let's think outside the box. Let's think outside the box. We have a God who's a creator. He doesn't fail. He just keeps creating. And so he's put that in you. So just keep creating, because when we flip the model of, okay, we're not going to be this full-time residential, they won't work, they won't do these things. The God was like, let's flip it, because, and he really spoke to who we were helping, which is that young girl who's probably in church who doesn't have a safe place to unpack all her hurts. Maybe that's because she is living with her boyfriend at the time, or maybe she's living with an unsafe family, because they have their own baggage. They love her, but they have their own baggage, and so she doesn't feel like she can really go through her life hurts when maybe she's trying to take care of bills, and having to work all the time. And so when we change the model of, this is our girl who wants to know the Lord even more desperately, but doesn't have the skill set to do it because they need accountability and structure. Structure is so key, although a lot of our girls hate it when they move in, and they need to be pushed. At 18, 19, I was not being pushed by anyone. I was just coasting through life and thinking, oh, I'll figure it out. But man, if you can get people in your life to help put guardrails around you and push you into what you're supposed to be, which is honoring and loving the Lord and getting healing from your past hurts. And so, like you said, our girls give up everything to come in. A girl who walks into my house, I look at them as, even in their hurts and their baggage, and everything that comes along with them, I look at them as such a person who is so courageous. That when Jesus looked at Peter and said, hey, come out here on the water, that's exactly what our girls are doing. They may not have a clue how this is going to get pulled off, but they're trusting for the first time. And I think that is like the first step of their life. A life full of big, huge moments, miracles happening in their life. And so, yeah, some of our girls, they've come in with thousands of dollars in debt. I laugh because in 9 months they paid it all off. We're talking $15,000 they're paying off. That's what they get to do that. They get to work hard, and they get to work in the afternoons to pay off their debt. They don't have to worry about paying a house bill or paying for rent or utilities or their car payments at times. They can just, if we need to get rid of the car, we need to get rid of the car so we can tackle this other debt. So you've seen that happen. You watch girls who would emotionally cry at everything because they're just one big wound, and so everything hurt them, to now be an intern with me and walking other girls through healing and going, hey girl, I've been there too. I used to cry and think Jess was mean as well, and but I promise you, her heart is for you, not against you. And so that's really cool to now have girls. We've had 3 girls graduate from our program, and watching them, some of them be in their jobs that they wanted forever. Now they're getting to live that out. Girls who are now interning and realizing they found their purpose in our home, and they want to do the same for other hurting women. And so it's just exciting. It's worth it when they get to the graduation day, because we're working with women. It gets catty. It gets fun. They're emotional, and if you're a woman, you understand. So when you live with women and they're taking the bathroom and the showers, and they won't scoot their clothes over in the closet. It's just, a sisterhood of women, So there's the good and the bad and the ugly
and
at times.
So.
Yeah.
But, it's been amazing, and this is just the beginning. Mm-hmm. So it's exciting to me because it's like we're kind of at capacity as far as on the first phase of this. And we've already started developing what you were talking about, that internship, that second phase. So looking at how in the world do we build a new community for these young women who've walked through healing, but knowing that they need to be in a safe, productive community for years to come. Yeah. And so we're walking through those processes now. There's doors opening for bringing in young, soon-to-be mothers. There's doors opening for all kinds of crazy things, and it's exciting. It is exciting. But it's all driven kind of on your shoulders and the shoulders of so many volunteers. So what are a couple of the things real quickly that, hey, we're looking for volunteers that can kind of jump in and serve in this capacity and live out your God-given dream?
Yeah, I think the easiest step is coming in and teaching a class, and that can sound overwhelming because I'm not a teacher, but it's really just sitting down with women and giving life skills. We have a class we call lifestyle leadership, because leadership is not just a title, it's your lifestyle. And if we can get people to realize when your lifestyle is a leader, you will be promoted. It is not about just trying to achieve. And so we have women come in and teach different things, like how to do a resume and why it's important when you're in an interview, how to dress, sitting down and saying, this is how I manage my emotions, because I have things that trigger me at work, and I used to be an addict. It's just wisdom, sitting down and pouring into these women something that maybe you wish someone would have told you. You get to tell them now. It's that simple. And you get to do it, and they'll ask tons of questions because they are so eager to learn. And so you may not feel like you have much to offer, but you have that one life lesson that you've learned that you can come in and teach a woman. And it's just, 45 minutes. Take it on your lunch break and come in and teach. Another great way is we do outings once a month. Some of our girls, because of financial burdens, they don't get to go do fun things and make memories. And you're looking at a 21-year-old who has full of energy. Oh, I remember how much energy I had at 21. And they want to do things. They want to make memories. And so we have volunteers who take them, hiking, or they take them to museums and just give them exposure to things that maybe the enemy robbed them from their childhood. But if we can instill those memories, I just think about one day when they're a mom, they're going to get to take their kids and do those things and expose them to things. And we just start watching chains break and a new legacy being laid for their family. And so those are great ways to just immediately get plugged in. And then we've had women who have volunteered, and they now are in their sweet spots. They're one of our ladies, Stacy, I'm so thankful for her. She just started helping with Bible study, but now she's writing her own Bible studies. And they're so good. And she's realizing, oh my gosh, God has so much more in store for me. And now she's getting to, use that for the home, and our girls are benefiting from it. But she's growing too as she's learning how to do all this. So I always say, come to the house and we can start you in these spots. But if you have a dream to do something with one of our girls, I don't want to hold you back. You didn't hold me back. So I definitely want to make sure our home allows volunteers to dream and how they want to help restore young women too.
What's the best way for someone to kind of find you guys out there in the world?
Yeah, they can check out our social media, because if you're thinking if you want to apply, there's our link in our bio on Instagram. It's called Restoration Home, Restoration_Home. You can find us at the link in the bio. You can apply. I think if you want a fresh start, if you want a new beginning, this would be the great place. If you're a volunteer, you can email me.
Jessica, we're so thankful that you came and joined us today and just shared just a tiny bit. I get the advantage of getting to hear your stories every day, and there's so many of them, and there's so many testimonies that I can't wait to start seeing out there on social media of the girls as they're graduating. They get comfortable with sharing where God's taken them from, places that they didn't even know, and the stories of success that are kind of coming out of that. So thank you so much for what you do.
Of course.
So much for being here. Good luck on the little German.
Oh, yes. But before we leave, I really want to say something. I love what you're doing, Drew, with the Every Arkansan podcast. And I think your dream for every Arkansan to find and really chase after their God-given dream, like, I feel like I'm a person who got to experience that firsthand. And I just want to say thank you to you. So if you're watching us and you're thinking, I really do have a dream, but will he really listen? Or how can really people help navigate that? The burden's still on you because he gave that vision to you. But I would really reach out, because I remember just sitting in that conversation with you and going, I really want to do this. And you help navigate me, but you really let me learn to walk and then take off running, and so just thank you for believing in me. And I know that you believe in so many people, and I just think it's so cool of bringing people in and doing these things. I just pray that it really stirs them on to really keep chasing after their dream, because it just gets bigger and bigger as God, develops it. So, thank you for doing this and connecting all of us together here in the state of Arkansas and, all the other cool states out there.
It is a pleasure.
Yeah. Awesome.
Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Every Arkansan podcast. Jessica Mauthe's story is one of the long-term vision of God. Sometimes when we're young, we kind of get that picture of what God wants for us. Sometimes we're older, and oftentimes we forget about it because it takes so long and it takes so much work. But she is a testament to not giving up on that dream, not turning loose of it, but holding on to it, even if it's on the shelf for a minute. Because in the end, God's got something great in store for every single one of us. And we hope this inspires you to go back to that shelf, grab your dream, and start chasing it.